And you are going to share the screen, I hope.
Yes.
Yes, very good, very good. Welcome, everybody. I was just checking. I see a lot of familiar faces. It's nice to see you again in this meeting. It's a little bit a milestone for us because the roadmap for the European Bauhaus facility is finally out. So we are happy to present it this morning. And as Bogut was saying, this session is fully dedicated to the roadmap itself. And afterwards, we do first a big presentation, and afterwards you can ask all the questions you always wanted to ask about the facility. I am joined here by different colleagues that all worked on parts of the facility itself. You see on the screen Elisa, Emilie, Sophia. They will say something about the R&I component, and then Solène will take most of the rollout component. And that's also the colleagues that actually worked on the different topics, so you can also direct your questions directly to them. So, roadmap, a milestone. Most of you know the European Bauhaus, I think, if I look at the names that I see on the screen. In the past years, the European Bauhaus has had a lot of traction. We had almost more than 500 projects, over 500 million in funding, and we have by now a little bit more than 1,500 partner organizations that we work with. So that's a very big success, and we're very happy with that. But we also knew that we wanted to go deeper and we wanted to go wider. We saw that there's a lot of nice project owners that want to bring their project further, and this is why we knew that we had to come up with a multi-annual tool. And we presented it last week to our national contact points, and they said, finally, we know what the European Bauhaus is going to do, not only this year, but also next year and the year after. If you go to the next slide, Bogut. Yes, exactly. The roadmap is based on a big consultation that we did last year. We went almost to every member state. We talked to a lot of stakeholders, and we also had a survey online. And the roadmap is the result of the different consultations that we did. In our need of becoming deeper, focusing more on new types of knowledge, we said we cannot tackle everything at the same time. The European Bauhaus has been from the start focusing on the built environment, but also textiles, but also education programs, products. We said if we go for a one big funding instrument, we need to focus more. And we chose neighborhoods as the big focus point. So the facility in this case is focused on revitalization, European neighborhoods with design for sustainability and inclusion, because we think that neighborhoods is where everything comes together. We saw it coming back in a lot of already ongoing projects. It's a way to integrate still a lot of different elements from the European Bauhaus, but it does focus the sector that or sectors for the time being with the funding that we offer. From the consultation, we defined 3 objectives: transforming places with communities, real places, so looking at new types of community-driven approaches. Objective 2, supporting innovation, looking at different supporting instruments. And objective 3, enabling change, looking, for example, at new economic models around neighborhoods. The roadmap has an R&I component, so a research and innovation component anchored in Horizon Europe. The funding for the next 3 years will per year be about 120 million per year. So for 2025, for 2026, and for 2027 each. And a rollout component that implements and scales up the European Bauhaus solutions with the similar level of ambition of at least 120 million per year. And in the way we worked together with the colleagues, we are quite sure that we will get to this 120 million per year. Of course, that's embedded in a bigger framework of the European Bauhaus itself. We always invest a lot in bringing new community members in. We do a lot of communication, so with the prizes that we have, with the festival that we have. We have already supporting tools. As you might know, on our website you can find guidelines for investments in the built environment. You can find, of course, our compass, one of the basic documents that we have. And we try to work internationally. And that is the bigger framework. That's the things that are embedded in the roadmap itself. I have to give you one warning today. We're not going to talk about the different goals because they are not out yet. So in the document, you see our working plan. You see roughly what we will do in the next 3 years. But because we work with different funding streams that all have their own rhythm and their own publication date, we cannot mention anything about the specific goals yet. But what I can say is that for the Horizon Europe part, for this year, we will have an info session halfway May to update you on the calls, because the call with the different topics that we have looked into for the Horizon Europe part. So please stay tuned. It will not take long. If I'm not mistaken, the call will be out end of April. So stay tuned for half of May when we will have our info session. But if you go to the next slide. Yes, of course, we are not working in isolation. We worked very closely with different colleagues in the Commission, and also with colleagues working, for example, on shared management. So that means colleagues working on cohesion policy. As I said already, the European Bauhaus has been supported in the past by 9 different funding programs. That's what we try to do again. So we will see that in the course of the years, and we try to already announce some of this in the roadmap itself, that we got support and work together quite closely, for example, with the colleagues in DG Regio looking at cohesion policy, but also colleagues in the EIT, colleagues in the LIFE program, and that's what you will see next. What we did here is we try to plot the different supporting and also linking calls that colleagues are working on, and we plotted them on the European Bauhaus Compass. So here you see a little bit how the different components that we work with and that support us, but also are in the bigger framework that link to the European Bauhaus, how we try to work together with the colleagues, but also how we try to bring different elements together. Okay, last slide for me. Boot, if you can go to the next one. Yes, this is a little bit the structure, because I think it's also good to know a bit how we are organized. We in the GRC coordinate the implementation of the European Bauhaus, of the roadmap. We work very closely with the core colleagues, for example, in DG Regio. We have 5 commissioners that follow the European Bauhaus. If you see online, you will see posts by Commissioner Zarajeva, you will see posts by Commissioner Roswell, but also by some executive vice presidents, Vito, for example, responsible for cohesion. So the NEB family is growing bigger and bigger. It means that also our coordination is quite big. And we do that in an inter-service working group where we meet not only the core colleagues, but a lot of different colleagues. I hear somebody, yeah, this is who is not muted. Yeah. And of course, our national contact points in each member state are very important. They are a bit the linking pin between what we do and what you do on the ground. Then I already said it, the strategic decisions are made by the different settings of the different programs that we work with. For the Horizon Europe component, it's the strategic configuration of the Horizon Europe Programming Committee. That's what I just tried to say. So this is one of the reasons why we cannot say anything yet about the call in or for the work program 2025. And then we work again for the rollout component with the other programs, for example, the live program that has its own rhythm and its own moment where calls will be announced. And of course, for shared management goals, which means the goals that are dealing with scaling up different projects in territories, we work very closely with the colleagues in regional development and managing authorities. We also have, since the beginning of the year, an external advisory and board and expert group that helps us define what helped us so far and will help us further to define what the European Bauhaus facility will do. Okay, I think this was the bigger structure, the bigger setting. I hope this sets the scene, and I give the floor back to Borut, who will introduce a bit more the colleagues that will deal with the different objectives.
Thank you very much, Vera, for setting the scene and introducing the overall picture. Now we'll dive into each of the three objectives, and we'll look at how both components actually contribute to it. So without further ado, under Objective 1, which is about transforming places with communities and aims to address social and cultural changes, I would like to invite first my colleague Elisa to present you how the R&I component contributes to the Objective 1. Elisa, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Borut. Can you hear me? All okay?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. So yes, if we go to the next slide, maybe. I wanted to, before diving into the content of what the R&I component foresees for a specific Objective 1, I wanted to share with you a very telling data from the Eurobarometer of 2022, which showed that less than half of Europeans believe that society is fair and equal. Less than half of Europeans, so that's very telling. Why am I starting with this? Well, because it will help you understand better the focus of the R&I component under this Objective number 1, which is about, the R&I component will be focusing on connecting the green transition with social inclusion and local democracy. And it's about prioritizing social fairness when addressing environmental and climate changes. It's about promoting equality and reducing socioeconomic inequalities, supporting vulnerable groups, and in this context also exploring or exploiting the role of arts, culture, cultural heritage, design, architecture, etc., that can help to contribute to these processes. So in short, the R&I component under specific Objective 1 will focus on the human dimension of neighborhood transformation, and that includes social and cultural aspects. So as you can see on the slide, you have 4 work streams. The first of these work streams focuses on better understanding the social and cultural impacts of the built environment and using this knowledge to really support innovation. There are different areas that will be covered by this work stream. I will only give a few of them because you have all the details in the roadmap, but it would be about how the built environment affects social dynamics, how design, renovation, maintenance processes of the built environment can be thought in a way that supports new social functions and services of the built environment, and other related aspects such as affordable and resilient housing, green gentrification, adaptability, etc. The second work stream is about the transformative potential of participatory practices and governance models and how they can contribute to neighborhood transformation, and also what are their links with local and cultural specificities. So different areas, again, also in this case, I would just give some examples. So for instance, this work stream would look at how these models and practices can promote transparency, resilience, and sustainable practices, but also other aspects more connected with the social and human dimensions, such as social inclusion, health, quality of life, intergenerational fairness, etc., and including also the contribution that digital technologies can bring. The third work stream is about really strengthening ownership and acceptability of change in neighborhoods and the role that culture can play in this. So, for instance, combining different scientific representations and types of research that do not often come together to better understand social phenomena in neighborhoods, looking as well as the relationships between stewardship, collective efficacy, and behavior in the context of the clean transition. And of course, focusing also on the role of arts, culture, cultural heritage in driving individual and collective action. And finally, how policymaking and public services can be better tailored to neighborhoods. Then the fourth work stream is about enhancing social connections, sense of belonging, and democratic and civic engagement as key elements that really define neighborhoods and trust in local democratic institutions. So this work stream would rather look at how these factors can support neighborhood development with a focus on inclusiveness, dignity, accessibility, ethics. Then also looking at how different aspects such as culture, design, social innovation, digital technologies, etc., can be combined to generate new opportunities for neighborhoods. So this was a very short explanation on the content of the R&I component under this first objective. Of course, all the details you find in the roadmap to complement this. I guess you will be asking yourself about the practical aspects and how this all will translate into calls. So as Vera said, we cannot disclose the content of the calls yet, but a reminder for those of you that may be less familiar with EU terminology. So this, as she was explaining, Horizon Europe is the EU program that supports research and innovation. So it will be the program that will be financing the calls of the R&I component of the NEB facility. And the calls to be funded by Horizon Europe each year are presented in a document that we call the work program. So for 2025, as Vera was saying, pre-publication of the work program before the end of the month. Just a quick disclaimer, pre-publication means that the document is stable enough to be published, but has not necessarily been formally adopted yet by the Commission. Once it is formally adopted by the Commission, then we will organize the information session, as Vera was saying. And then the work program for 26-27 is under preparation. We're expecting that it is adopted at the end of this year. So that's all for me. And back to you, World. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Elisa. And then, of course, we have the other side of the coin, if we call it like that, the rollout component. So I invite Solène to take the floor to explain to us how the rollout component will contribute towards Objective 1. Please, Solène, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ruud. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Super.
Yes. Great. Okay, so under the same objective of transforming places with community, to complement, as you said, the rollout component, the R&I component, sorry, the rollout component brings together actions that can help deliver place-based transformations at neighborhood level involving local communities. So the roadmap presents 4 strands under which we will deploy, roll out, replicate, scale up NEB solutions. The first one has to do with housing. You might know that tackling the housing crisis is one of the priorities of this commission, and the NEB facility will support solutions that match affordability with sustainability and quality of housing. So no trade-off, as always, between those aspects. The idea is to apply the NEB's integrated approach to develop a sustainable, energy-efficient, healthy, qualitative and comfortable built environment for all, supported by innovation and public participation. The second strand focuses on quality public spaces, which are crucial for the revitalization of neighborhoods. The rollout component aims to encourage the implementation of circular and regenerative strategies for green and public spaces at the level of neighborhoods, and this includes mixed-use development, quality public infrastructure using, for example, nature-based solutions. The third strand echoes well the R&I focus that Elisa just presented on the transformative potential of participatory practices and governance models, because it's about rolling out solutions for stronger local democracy and neighborhood services. So here the rollout component aims to support collaborative and community-based projects that enhance local democracy in facilitating the active engagement of inhabitants in the transformation of their living spaces. And here the role of arts and the culture and creative sector is essential, which brings me to the fourth strand, culture and creation as languages of change. NEB, as you know, recognizes and promotes the role of arts and culture as very strong catalysts for social change, and the importance of projects that go beyond functionality to create shared, positive and enriching experiences. So this is something that the rollout will further support. Now, among the actions that are already rolling out this first objective in 2025, we have the special strand of the NEB prices, focusing on affordable housing. We have the NEB boost for small municipalities. And as Vera mentioned, cooperation with colleagues in regional development, especially through the progress of DG Regio and its peer-to-peer NEB community that is meant to work with the managing authorities in member states dealing with cohesion policy to really build up the number of NEB projects supported by the European Regional Development Fund, ERDF, in the coming years. And generally speaking, the rollout is delivered through different EU programs with different governance model, different timelines, running parallel to what Elisa just presented for Horizon Europe, so different work programs. And for 2026-2027, our general objective is to cooperate even more closely with the Commission services in charge of those programs to develop goals. And we will make sure to always inform you of the launch of these goals that will have different timelines. So here, for example, possible collaboration with the Single Market Program is one thing we have in mind. And now I will give you a brief example. If you can go to the next slide, yes. An example of how the European Bauhaus can be further mainstreamed in the ERDF program in the member states. Here you have Town Centre First Heritage Revival, or the Thrive scheme, which is an Irish initiative aiming at revitalizing town centres by renovating and repurposing heritage buildings. So making town centres more attractive places to live, to work, to visit, while preserving Ireland's rich architectural heritage. And a key aspect of Thrive is the integration of the NEB values and the core NEB values into design and implementation of the project. So the initiative encourages the collaboration between local authorities, researchers, stakeholders from the private sector, and it provides technical assistance to help small municipalities securing financing and engaging with local communities. We think it's a good example of how managing authorities in the member states can use the NEB framework to design goals that fit their priorities and their realities. And we hope to see that kind of examples replicated with the work we are doing now with our colleagues in regional development and with the support of our national contact points. So that's about it for the rollout under Objective 1.
Thank you very much, Solène. And Elisa, for wrapping up the first objective. We'll now move to the second one. So the second objective, supporting innovation, is all about also materials and physical change. And how does both components contribute to this? We'll start with Emily, who I invite to take the floor to explain to you how the R&I component will contribute to this. Emily, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Barut. Yes, so under the second objective, the R&I component focuses more on the physical dimension of neighborhoods, and it really aims at making them more circular, sustainable, and regenerative. And just so you understand also, in the Horizon Europe vocabulary, let's say, we would be referring to Destination 2. So in the European Bauhaus part of the Horizon Europe work program, we are divided into 3 destinations, and each destination corresponds to one of the objectives in the roadmap. So here I'm talking about Destination 2. Destination 2 will be really looking at solutions to make the built environment more circular, more sustainable, and it will also be looking at how we can design or use our surrounding spaces and building differently. And maybe before jumping into the work streams, I wanted to say a word on what we mean by regenerative. And the idea is to go beyond circularity. So it's not only about having a zero impact on nature, it's it's about having a positive impact on it. So it's about restoring and regenerating nature and ecosystems. And we are convinced that this is something the built environment should always aim for. And that's why regenerative also appear in here in Destination 2, although the focus is on the built environment. So now to present the work stream. So as you see on the slide, we have identified 3 of them, also based on the consultation that Vera was mentioning earlier. So the first one focuses on materials and products. So it's about developing innovative construction materials and products that contribute to making the built environment more sustainable and circular. So for instance, to be a bit more concrete, it could be looking at innovative bio-based construction materials or materials that are made out of byproducts, for example. It could also look not only at the materials in themselves, but also at their properties. So it would be about developing materials that can self-heal or that can absorb carbon. So all those kind of things to really make the built environment more circular and sustainable. And this work stream will also pay attention to standards, because materials and products need to comply with the existing standards, and that is really key if we want industry and the construction actors to use those materials and products that we are developing. But then on the other hand, it would be also about informing the existing standards, because not all of them are always fit to those new materials and products that are coming up and that are being developed. So it would be also looking at how to inform the standards that are there to make them better fit to innovative and new materials and products. The second work stream is on innovative, sustainable, and circular designs and solutions for revitalized neighborhoods. So in this work stream, we will really look at how we can build and renovate differently. So, it could be, for instance, finding ways to be more efficient when it comes to the resources use, the energy use, the time that a construction takes, because of course all of those construction steps use energy, and the longer they are, the more energy and resources you use. So it would be really about efficiency and optimizations. But then it's also about rethinking really how we occupy and use the spaces around us, be it our homes, but also public spaces. So it would be about developing new designs, but finding ways and researching how we can optimize really the use of a building, for instance. That will be the second work stream. And then the third work stream is about assessing the performance and impacts of those solutions, because if we want them to be adopted, of course, we need to have evidence about the impact that they have. So the work stream will be looking at new but also improved the existing methodologies to assess the performance and the impacts of those innovations that would make the built environment more circular and sustainable. So that's it in a nutshell. Maybe just again a word to say that, because you may be wondering, like, I don't really see the European Bauhaus aspects in those 3 work streams. But there are, of course, horizontal elements to all of those work streams, such as the involvement of local communities, the use of vernacular knowledge, the role of arts and cultural sectors, beauty. So all of this is really horizontal to the three work streams. And when it comes to the goals and the practicalities, they're the same as Destination 1 that Elisa explained, so no need for me to go over that again. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. Just a quick shout out. If you have any questions, Slido is waiting for you. If you have a bit of an issue with Slido, you can also use the chat, though we prefer the Slido. Just a quick shout out before I pass the word to Solène to also present us how the rollout contributes towards Objective 2. Please, Solène.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very nice because my RNI colleagues always set the scene for me. You've understood by now that the rollout and RNI share general themes under these objectives, and the rollout basically comes to complement the efforts in research and innovation at a later stage of a project. So under the second objective, it will bring together actions that will foster a sustainable, circular and regenerative European construction sector that is also competitive. So to achieve this objective, we will work along 3 work streams this time. The first one is about supporting a new construction culture. What we mean by that is promoting innovative approaches to the supply of new buildings and the transformation of existing building stock. You have here, for example, the notion of off-site construction processes, which should not be synonym of decreased quality and one-size-fits-all approach. So we have already plenty of new European Bauhaus good practices that show that prefabrication and modularity can facilitate and increase end-user engagement and co-design processes. So this is the direction we're aiming for, and this is one focus under this new construction culture. The second work stream focuses on boosting the scale-up and market uptake of innovative construction materials and products. Emily was just talking about research on the same topic. So bringing prototypes of sustainable materials and products to the market and supporting the implementation of efficient processes and standardized methods for sourcing, using and recycling materials and products. Again, this brings me to the third work stream, which is specifically about deploying solutions for a circular economy in construction. So facilitating the implementation of projects that keep products, components, and materials circulating in the economy. And here we also refer to circularity at the level of buildings and neighborhoods. So supporting local authorities, for example, to enhance the adaptability and sufficiency of building stocks in their territories. Now, how we will make this happen? For this year, the work with the EIT community NEB will continue, and I will say a bit more about that in a second. The topic of architectural sufficiency and adaptability that I was just mentioning, so the circularity at the level of neighborhood, is something that we will try to further work on. And for 2026-2027, again, we aim for increased cooperation with the European Commission services, notably in charge of the Single Market Programme. So the Single Market Programme has in its portfolio support for the competitiveness of small and medium enterprises and startups. So something that can also be applied to, of course, the construction sector. And increased cooperation as well with the LIFE Programme, which is the EU's Environment and Climate Action Programme. We also aim to explore positive cooperation with the European Innovation Council, the EIC, through calls and competitions such as the EIC Accelerator Challenge. Some of you might recall that we already had in 2023 a NEB EIC Accelerator Challenge focusing on architecture, engineering, and construction digitalization for decarbonization. And these competitions are dedicated to SMEs and startups that really want to scale up their innovation. It's about backing visionary entrepreneurs, which fits very well here, this second objective of the NEB facility. And now just to dive a little bit into an example, if we go to the next slide, we wanted to give a bit of a highlight to the work of the EIT community NEB. The EIT community NEB was launched by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology very shortly after the NEB initiative itself was launched. And since then, it has developed a journey to accompany small-scale projects at every stage of their development with microfunding and supporting activities. And it has supported over 170 NEB projects and startups since 2021. It's really a process that works, and the EIT will continue to be a key partner in the startup to scale up approach, and especially so for this second objective of the NEB facility. And I will close here.
Thank you very much, Solène. I see the questions coming in. That's super. We'll address them after the last presentation, the last couple of presentations on how the rollout and R&I component contribute to the third objective, which is about enabling change and more specifically about economic changes. How exactly, what exactly do we mean by that? Will first be presented by Sophia, who will talk about the R&I contribution to the third objective, and then we'll have Solan again coming in for the rollout. Sophia, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Borut. Yes, I'd like to give you a brief overview of the R&I component and how it contributes to specific Objective 3 on enabling change. So as Borut briefly introduced, this focus area is looking at the economic conditions and dynamics within neighborhoods and how they influence NEB projects and solutions. So in a way, this focus area is building on and complementing the two previous focus areas by adopting the perspective that it's not enough to only conceptualize and develop NEB aligned projects and solutions, but we also have to consider the local conditions that will allow for their uptake, further development, and long-term sustainability as well. So that's here the departing perspective of this focus area. This focus area aims to do that by first looking at the neighborhood as an ecosystem and looking at the drivers and barriers within the ecosystem for the projects, building the business case for NEB projects, and this in connection to developing new business models for their development and uptake, and then also connecting this to new funding mechanisms that will also attract investment in NEB projects. And these aspects, they translate into the 4 work streams under this third focus area, which I'll give an overview of now. So the first work stream looks at new and alternative business models that can support the further development and uptake of sustainable and inclusive NEB projects in neighborhoods. These business models, they seek to address both the more tangible and intangible transformations in neighborhoods. So what I mean with that is the more tangible transformations are, for example, new business models for the renovation and redevelopment of spaces and sites within the built environment. And then we also have business models looking more at the intangible transformations in neighborhoods. So here we're talking more at the systemic and the social level. So looking at the social dynamics within a neighborhood, how can we leverage the social economy and social entrepreneurship? These business models, they can leverage diverse existing approaches as well. So for example, design innovation, social innovation, and also very much collaborative community models. And the aim here is to make the projects and solutions cost-effective, accessible and affordable, but also foster their sustainable environmental impact and also the social cohesion that projects can create in neighborhoods. The second work stream is looking at innovative supply chains and systems for circularity in neighborhoods. So here, circular supply chains are really crucial to support the sustainable circular business models by fostering the reclaiming, the reuse, and also the reassembly of existing resources and assets in the built environment. And here the focus is looking not only at the economic and financial benefits of reuse, but also the social aspects of it. So how can we foster the needed transdisciplinary collaboration across stakeholders along entire supply chains? And here we're also interested at looking at how to leverage digital tools and sharing networks and platforms to support these new supply chains. Then we have the third work stream, which is looking exactly at the neighborhood as an ecosystem and trying to understand what are the different and interplaying barriers and drivers that influence the development and uptake of NEB projects. So this involves looking into different types of markets. So a big focus here is looking at the capital demand and supply, but also real estate markets, and also understanding relevant policy and regulatory frameworks on the ground and how they influence NEB projects. And then finally, the last work stream is looking at innovative funding models. So here, NEB projects, they require adapted and different funding mechanisms because of their unique characteristics. So their smaller size, their higher risk creation, and the fact that they create different values beyond mere financial return on investment. So here we're looking at alternative and especially bottom-up funding mechanisms that also leverage impact investing, public-private people partnerships, and involve the actual inhabitants and communities in investing and having equity in the transformation of neighborhoods. So that's an overview of what this third focus area fosters. And as for the specifics of the calls for 2025 and 2026 and 7, the same applies as for the other 2 focus areas, so I won't repeat that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sophia. We'll move towards the last presentation, the last part of the presentation, and not to take anything away from Solène, but just also to mention that Solène didn't work on all the rollout by herself. We have a team behind, like we have the team behind developing the R&I component, but for different reasons, colleagues are either engaged in other activities or their voices are not up to the task for today. But without further ado, Solène, please come in to present the last part now.
Yes, thank you, Borod. I'm trying to hold the fort. So if objective 1 was about people, places, objective 2 mostly about solutions, I think an easy way to say what objective 3 is about for the rollout component is it's about the landscape and the conditions that make the NEB approach possible and successful. So again, enabling change in deploying and rolling out new business and funding models, and developing new skills that are needed to rethink how projects and solutions are conceived, planned, and executed. So it's about improving the societal readiness for NEB solutions. And for that, the rollout will work along 4 work streams. The first one is quite straightforward. It's about boosting skills for sustainable construction. We know that to implement innovative NEB projects, especially in the built environment, you need people with the right set of skills. And we see that trainings are currently not sufficiently available or accessible to meet this rapidly growing skills demand and interest in the areas of sustainable and circular construction. So knowledge at the design phase, but also implementation of new building materials, product, processes will be needs to be boosted. The second strand focuses on the implementation of innovating funding and business models that are essential, as we said, for the multiplication of NEB projects on the ground. So innovative models for the circular economy, for example, that can help businesses turn to selling services rather than products, that could encourage higher accountability for end-of-life product management, reduce waste and environmental impact, and also create jobs and skill development opportunities in communities. So let's say fostering local activities like repair, manufacturing, quality control, and so on. The third strand deals with digitalization. Here again, rather straightforward. The aim is to promote the development and implementation of digital tools. You can think, for example, about how digital tools can help provide access to cultural heritage, can facilitate citizen engagement and participatory processes, but also urban planning and management. You can think of digital twins, energy and water monitoring, design and construction. And this trend is also about providing technical assistance for local government to implement, let's say, the digitalization of the building code and the permit issuing process. So very much oriented on construction process here. And this again is a nice transition to strand 4, which is about capacity building for NEB solutions. So providing project and decision makers with capacity building and technical support to public authorities to implement the NEB approach. For example, with capacity support in participatory processes in which some authorities have expressed interest. So among the actions that are already rolling out this objective in 2025 and will continue doing so, the NEB Academy will keep on working on fostering skills on sustainable construction. Under brackets, you might have seen that the NEBA Alliance, the project that coordinates the NEB Academy, has opened a call to onboard new regional and topical hubs and new partners. So this is part of the deployment of the NEB Academy. Capacity building activities under the European Urban Initiative can also be instrumental to support urban authorities to embed the NEB in their sustainable urban strategies financed by cohesion policy. We saw the case of Ireland, and this is also something for 2025. And then in 2026, 2027, we aim to cooperate more closely with programs such as Digital Europe, which is the EU's funding program focused on bringing digital technology to businesses, citizens, and public administration. Then we also have a project, the Innovative Funding Advisory Hub, about which I will say a few more words exactly. So exactly to promote innovative funding schemes, this Innovative Funding Advisory Hub will be developed here with the support of the European Parliament. It's a pilot project proposed by the European Parliament to really promote funding opportunities for small-scale projects in the built environment. So we're talking projects below 100,000 euros, sorry. The pilot project is made of 2 complementary actions: the creation of a NEB funding advisory hub and the development of a voucher scheme. It is a response to, of course, the difficulties of many players to access funding and the need to look for alternative models, as we said, under this Objective 3. And within the pilot, there will also be an interactive digital platform that will promote the visibility of these small-scale projects, highlighting their benefit, their impact, possible impact on the ground, and building up their attractiveness towards public and private investors. The platform will facilitate the matching of small NEB projects with alternative forms of funding, such as philanthropists, impact financiers, crowdfunding, and finance blending models. And it will be operating from 2026 onwards. So I close here. Thank you so much for bearing with me through the unfolding of the 3 rollout objective, and happy to discuss further together with my colleagues and address your question later on.
Thank you, Selene. Thanks to all the presenters. We've exhausted the presentation. Before we move to the Q&A, just to answer directly also to some of the questions regarding the recording and the presentation, whether this will be available. Yes, definitely. We will share these directly with you. So as you received the connection link for today's session, we will also distribute the recording, the link to the presentation, and then also we'll try to answer all the questions that we receive also in written form. So to also build kind of a body of knowledge on the NEB facility, considering different questions from there. Thanks a lot for already asking quite a few questions on the Slido. So I'm now sharing the screen, and we'll go through the questions that we received on the Slido, as well as those that we received in the registration form. Always appreciate when you keep yourself muted, not to bother everybody else in the session. Or maybe not, or maybe I can find you and mute you. Not needed, thanks a lot. But I would go to the first question that also got 2 likes, 2 upvotes, meaning interesting for more people. And I would like to invite my colleague Artur to address this one. And it's about the rollout component, calls and programs in terms of amount of funding and the length of the project implementation. Artur, can you please expand a bit on this in the scope that, of course, we can talk about?
Hello. Good morning. Yes. So, do you hear me well? I hear different sounds in my.
Yeah, we hear you. I will try to find the person that.
Okay.
Yeah, now it should be fine.
So, about the kinds of programs that we'll find in the rollout component and the amounts and the timeline for implementation. So, basically, maybe a couple of general messages that will be useful when replying to all the questions on funding is that, as you understood from the roadmap and the presentation, we use different programs to fund European Bauhaus calls under the facility. So everything that is R&I will be funded by Horizon Europe, but for the rollout, so for the deployment of projects on the ground, we'll use different EU programs and hopefully also national and private funding. But staying within the EU programs, we use different EU programs. And these EU programs can be fully managed by the Commission, let's say, to put it simple, what we call centralized management, or managed together with the member states, like it's the case notably of the cohesion funds, ERDF, etc., which we call shared management, and that the calls are managed at national and regional level by managing authorities. So for these 2 types of calls, we have different control, the timings are different, we have a different capacity to influence also the text of the calls, because, for instance, the calls launched at national level are fully under the responsibility of the national authorities. But going specifically to this question on the amount of funding, what has been defined, so we don't have a full amount defined for the 3 years of the program. Another thing that must be said, and that's why we will not discuss calls that are not published, is that until calls are published, they don't exist. So we don't know if they will even exist or not. So the calls can only be discussed by us when they are published. But of course, we are working to have lots of calls in the coming 3 years in the different programs. But the ambition that has been set even by the president during the last European Bauhaus Festival is that we would have, for the deployment of projects on the ground, at least 120 million euros per year within the EU programs. Sorry, I have a cough. And about the timeline, this really depends of the different programs. So the different programs have different times. Usually live calls come at a specific phase of the year in spring, but other programs have calls at other times, and the national and regional calls can come at any time, basically. So we cannot put you a specific timeline for this for you at the moment. So I stop because you asked me to reply only to this question, then I can come in for other questions.
Yeah, but since I have you here, Artur, the second question that rose quickly in the ranks was opportunities for small community projects. So if you can maybe also talk about this, and if other colleagues have something also to add, please feel free then to come in after Artur.
Yeah, on this, so definitely that's something that has been in our mind all through the build of this facility and even before the facility, that since the beginning, the support to smaller projects, even if you read the initial communication of 2021 of the European Bauhaus, is something that is already flagged as an issue that needs to be addressed. And in that sense, we have different sizes of projects. We have had, let's say, for the rollout component, projects that range from our NEB prizes that are really small amount projects for small projects that we think merit more visibility, even for some of the projects that are not completed. And then let's say we've gone so far until projects of the size of the lighthouse demonstrators of the European Bauhaus that received 5 million euros each. Let's say for the future, we want to continue to all these with the prizes, with the EIT Community NEB projects that Solène mentioned, that also support small projects. We have something that is already public, that is the Boost. So the European Bauhaus Boost that will support small municipalities up to 20,000 inhabitants to do their projects. I know that R&I colleagues also have this in mind when preparing their calls and trying to find solutions, although, as the question points, Horizon Europe is a more complicated framework to support smaller projects. I think if colleagues have something to add, please. I think for me, I'm finished with this one.
Thank you, Artur.
Maybe I can complement on the Horizon Europe part. So of course, we are bound by the rules of each of the programs when designing calls. So in the case of Horizon Europe, we are bound by the rules, by the legal basis of Horizon Europe. But nevertheless, when working on the calls, we are taking into account as much as possible the inputs we received during the consultation, which among others highlighted the need to pay special attention or the need to increase the accessibility of calls. So we are looking at how to make these calls more accessible to different type of stakeholders, including newcomers and smaller actors.
Thank you, Elisa. And since I have you on the stage already, Elisa, there are some questions linked to Ukraine recovery and special opportunities. Can you say anything about that?
Well, again, in this case, so in each program, there are certain countries outside of the EU that are eligible to participate. So for each program, these countries will be eligible if they are associated or subject to the conditions of each program. Now, when it comes to specific opportunities for Ukraine, as Artur and Vera were saying, we are not able to speak about calls as they are not published. So there's nothing we can say in here. And also bear in mind that the focus of the work has been so far on 2025, so there's still work going on for 26-27. So again, we cannot speak about any specific opportunities at the moment. Thank you for the understanding.
Thank you, Elisa. I will take one question myself, and it's the one, will there be a NEB festival next year? Because I like to deliver good news, and I can say, yes, there will be a festival next year. The timeline, the details are still being discussed, and the decision will come very soon. Hopefully, we will be able to announce some concrete decisions and information about the festival in a couple of months. But definitely, there will be a festival in 2026, so stay tuned for that. Emily, so we have a few questions about standards on different levels, linked to regulations, to the life cycle assessment methodology, also to construction products regulation. We also received the question about how the material neutrality is ensured or dealt with within the NEB facility. There's a lot of questions on this, but can you please try to kind of encompass and address all of them or most of them?
I will do my best. Just maybe to start, that we included standards, and we're covering standards there because that's really something that emerged from the consultation, and when we speak to different stakeholders, that's really something that comes up quite often, that standards standards are not always adapted to those new materials. They're sometimes outdated. So that's why we have that there. Of course, that doesn't mean that we want to change everything that is there. No, we're not that radical. There are standards that exist, that are well working. The LCA methodologies, for instance. So of course, we don't want to erase everything that is there. But the point is really to improve some of the standards when necessary and when relevant. And that would be, based on some projects could, try and see, okay, but actually my solution cannot be uptaken because of existing standards are not entirely fit. So it would be about informing how can you make and improve, how can you improve those standards. And then CPR, well, of course, often we would ask solutions to be to comply with existing standards, including the CPR. Same, for instance, we have been quite in touch with our colleagues from DG Environment who have been working on a levels framework. So that's also something that we keep in mind when developing our calls. All those existing frameworks and standards, we have them well in mind. We are in contact with the different colleagues. So I think in a nutshell. And about the question on material neutrality, that's also something that we keep in mind when drafting the calls, is that of course we don't want the solutions that we are developing to be harmful to the environment, to be the source of carbon emissions. So quite often we do take the whole life cycle of the solutions into consideration. So I hope this answers the questions. Well, I cannot go into much details here for each one of the questions, but I hope it gives an overall answer.
No, definitely, it gives a good overview. Please, dear participants, dear colleagues, if you have a more in-depth, or you would like to follow up on what Emily said, please do ask then the second, third question, and we'll try to address them here. Otherwise, we'll do our best after the session. We'll go to the most upvoted question now, and I think it's a question that addresses both teams, the RNI and the rollout component. And it's so in the context of the facility, how will the components collaborate, work together? So how will the rollout component support the implementation of the RNI results from the initial NEB, from the NEB facility, and also the calls that have been implemented in the Horizon Europe before the NEB facility. So all the Horizon Europe calls we had in years 2021, 2023, like lighthouse demonstrators and so on and so forth. And I would invite here, open the floor for whichever of the colleagues wants to come in to reflect on this and what were the discussions and then directions that the facility, that we decided that the facility will take in relation to this. And if I just begin, so we don't have an awkward 3 seconds when we look at each other, I would invite first Artur maybe to come in, and then please, colleagues, feel free to come in yourself as well.
Yeah, thank you, Borut. But I think it's really Solène probably that is in the best position. She has been the one who has worked more on this, and I think she has this reply better prepared. Right, Solène?
I can try. Yes.
Yes.
Just to say that the idea you would have understood to have those shared objectives under the NEB facility, and to have those two components sort of mirroring each other and complementing each other. The idea was to create a sort of pipeline of continuity in projects. And of course, because of the timing, now we're launching an R&I component parallel to a rollout component. So there will be there is sort of a situation in the timing where, of course, rollout cannot already exploit the results of the R&I calls that are launched at the same time. But the idea is for the rollout to implement and scale up solutions that have been experimented under the NEB umbrella, over the past 3 years. So indeed, the work of the Lighthouse demonstrators, many other demonstrators we've had within the European Bauhaus. So building on this for the rollout, and then at a later stage, ensuring that we always have a sort of, we have a continuity in the themes that we approach. We work closely together. I mean, as you know, we're a small team, and we know what is being developed under the R&I component. It's also the added value of having our own set of calls within the Horizon Europe program, and being fully decision makers of the nature of these calls, and then trying to do everything we can with the other EU programs to link to these calls. And then just to close the knowledge loop, you might also know that we have Hub for Result and Impact project that will be launched still before the end of this year. And this is one way where we hope to continue making sure that NEB projects in research and innovation and in delivery implementation keep on informing each other. But if any colleagues want to complement.
Thank you, Solène.
Yeah, I mean, the knowledge, yeah, indeed. So maybe to add on to what Solène was saying about the NEB Hub for Results and Impact, indeed, in 2024, we had this topic in Horizon Europe under the Destination NEB, which was the preparatory tool, the transition tool towards the NEB facility. One of the topics was to have a NEB Hub for Results and Impact that was supposed to do, or that will be supposed to do, knowledge management, so collecting information about the solutions that are developed by the projects and helping them to be taken up and deployed, and then closing, as Solène was saying, this loop on knowledge management. Just a little bit more details on that. And again, that project, that topic is resulting into a project that is expected to start this year.
Thanks. Elisa, I have a question for you as well. So Zeynep is asking, how do we place cultural spaces and initiative into the equation of the NEB facility funding? If you can expand on this a bit.
Yeah, so basically the role of cultural heritage, the cultural and creative sector is at the very core of the European Bauhaus in general in the process of innovation, and also, of course, as part of the NEB facility. So as you could see, or as we were trying to present during the different presentations today, there was always a component or a dimension that was touching upon culture and cultural and creative sectors, cultural heritage, design, etc. So this is something that is transversal to the whole of the NEB facility, which means that, of course, we are taking this into account when designing the course, to have always this cultural component. I hope to have addressed the question. If not, then we'll come back.
Thanks. Yes, please, if you have a follow-up question, please do use the chat or the Slido. Solène, a question for you on EIT. So we got a question well, it's two parts. So do we have specific funding identified for the rollout component? I think you answered this throughout the three presentations, but maybe to be very plastic about it. And then the question is whether EIT funding would be earmarked as leveraged finance for the rollout, if it aligns or not. Very specific questions, but let's try to answer them.
Yes, let's try. Thank you. On funding sources, I think Arthur already addressed a little bit the overall working of the rollout. So funding sources in different EU programs with their own governance models, so in shared or direct management, and with their own timelines, so different work programs coming at different stages throughout the next 3 years. And then we're trying also to bring in national and private funding. And then on the EIT specifically, the idea is to continue working closely with our colleagues in this cross-kick initiative that is the EIT community NEB to reinforce the alignments between the objectives and the rollout and the work of the journey that the EIT community NEB has set up, and working as well with other EIT knowledge innovation communities, so KICs. So yeah, that's as much I think I can say right now. I don't know if anybody would want to compliment Arthur, but I think that's...
Thank you. So we also got a follow-up question on distribution of funding for specific topics. At this point, we don't have such an overview. I think this is something that we will able to do afterwards when we have a full picture of also all the calls. Elisa, Emily, or Sophia, so we have a bunch of questions on Horizon Europe, from what is considered sufficiently innovative to different eligibility criteria for projects and so on and so forth. Some questions are borderline already, kind of trying to get some information on specific calls. We see that, we read between the lines, so we'll be careful in replying to that. But maybe colleagues from working on the R&I component and with the Horizon Europe, if you can provide a general answer to these more specific questions about partnerships, eligibility, scale of innovation, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, maybe I can start and then Emily and Sophia can jump in. So in general, again, as I was explaining in a previous question, so calls under Horizon Europe or topics under Horizon Europe are bound for those topics, for those calls, we are bound by the legal basis of Horizon Europe. So the criteria for the evaluation, the eligibility criteria, these are common rules for Horizon Europe, and these will be also applied to the rules as rules to the topics and the calls under the NEB facility in the R&I component. So that's a bit, so the rules are there under Horizon Europe and they apply to the different calls that are funded by this program. So in that way, the overall rules will also apply to the NEB facility topics under the R&I component. Now, number of projects, average funding per project, again, this corresponds to the specific topics. We cannot disclose any information. It will depend on the topic. Also, you know, what on the focus on the topic, on the what will be needed. So anything that is really touching upon the actual content of the calls, the budget, the number of projects, we cannot speak about it at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. And maybe to add something, so European Bauhaus facility is an overall structure, but it's not a new program. It's not. It does not bring a new funding program as such, because it combines different already existing funding mechanisms, which, when we speak about specific rules, eligibility, who can participate, also outside the member states, so on and so forth, everything is connected to the rules that govern existing programs. So the rules that govern Horizon Europe program will govern the Horizon Europe calls under NEB facility. If there will be a NEB facility call under LIFE program, same there. LIFE rules of the LIFE program apply, and so on and so forth. Not to repeat myself too much. Then we had a question on the budget. So is NEB facility budget 120 million per component per year or for the whole period? It is per year. So 120 million under Horizon Europe, with the same ambition to match up in the rollout component in 2025, 2026, and 2027. Another question we had about when the calls will be opened. With the Horizon Europe, the calls always open following the publication of the work program. So work program 2025, as Elisa and the colleagues working on RNI component mentioned, are tentatively planned to be published towards the end of April, the work program, and then publication of calls will follow that very soon. And then for 26 and 27, the work program is in early phases of preparation, and then the same rhythm will follow as such. But maybe we have now, we had a bit of a general questions, but now we also have some questions about will there be funding for specific renovation of buildings or for vulnerable groups? So how it is with specific topics and links to the facility, cultural heritage, how did we deal with this approach? I know you mentioned it through the presentations, but maybe to also be more explicit in explaining how we link different fields, different areas, different expertises with the NEB facility, and I would invite both teams for the rollout and RNI to address this. And maybe Solène, if I can put you on the spot first, and then invite the colleagues from RNI to join as well.
Thank you both. Yeah, so on the specific topics, if we try to give like a general answer, I just want to remind you, I think one of the RNI colleagues mentioned it, that we worked a lot on the basis of the consultation exercise that we led in 2024. So talking a lot with NEB community members in the different member states and a national government. So this was the basis for us to develop some of the topics. We also, of course, collaborate closely with the colleagues across Commission services and take into account their views on priorities. And of course, staying true to the core values and working principles and objectives of the new European Bauhaus. So if you take more specifically questions about the role of, I think I saw about the role of arts and culture, about vulnerable groups or renovating heritage, these are all elements that were already very present in the NEB approach and supported throughout a number of projects, and that of course we very much included in the NEB facility at large and in the rollout. You might remember under Objective 1, a specific work strand, recognizing culture and arts as languages for change. What it means is really continuing to provide support to the cultural and creative sector, to artists to be actors in the transformation of neighborhoods. So that's one example, and yeah, maybe colleagues from RNI can take it up a bit further.
Can I also compliment just by saying one thing?
Yeah.
Sorry. So specifically on the renovation of buildings, I have the impression that reading the question, I have the impression that the question goes more in the direction of the housing crisis. So whether there would be funding to renovate buildings in this context, also to support vulnerable groups in particular. If that is the case, let's see if I can go a little back. You can understand the scale of NEB calls by two things that we have said. One, that so far the projects that we have supported under the rollout in the European Bauhaus range from 15,000 from the lowest price to 5 million of the lighthouse demonstrators, and the total budget that is our ambition is 120 million per year. So you easily understand that this type of funding is not enough to do large-scale renovation of buildings. So it is not excluded, of course, that there will be calls that will include examples of renovation of buildings, for instance, for very specific cases to make the case. But if you speak about large scale, then the funding would have to come from somewhere else. be it more on the share management side, where you saw with the Thrive project that, for instance, for heritage, as Solène showed, Ireland launched a relatively big project just to renovate these buildings. But even on a larger scale, then it would have to come on national initiatives or the RRF money, so the Recovery and Resilience Facility that the member states have. And maybe a last thing that should be said here is that we are in close contact with the new housing initiative of the Commission that is addressing this crisis and discussing how the European Bauhaus values and principles can be mainstreamed in the actions and in the narrative of this housing initiative. So it was just to add this. So now we can pass, I think, to the RNI colleagues.
Maybe I can start also linking with what Arthur was saying and focusing more maybe on renovation. So that's something when I presented Destination 2, I mean, that's something Destination 2 looks into because it will, it's also something that came from the consultation is that we need to pay a lot of attention to how to reuse what is already there. So that means also renovation and using existing built environment for repurposing, etc. But what is important to stress is that Horizon Europe is, of course, a research program. So we can do research, we can look into ways on how to renovate, new ways of renovating in a way that it's more sustainable, maybe more affordable, etc. But Horizon Europe cannot fund, like it couldn't give citizens subsidies to renovate their own houses, for instance. So yeah, that's something I wanted to say. Then regarding the other components, of course, yeah, it's a bit hard. We need to give an answer without going too much into details. But as Solène was saying, I mean, the same answer also apply to the RNI component of the NEB facilities that, yeah, we're taking into account the input we received from the consultation. There, of course, people were really saying like we need to pay attention to vulnerable groups, to heritage buildings, etc. So that's something we take into account when drafting the calls. And as Solène was also saying, of course, we keep the NEB values very much present there. So also paying attention to culture, to arts, to beauty. So yeah, I don't know if Sophia or Elisa, you want to add something on this?
Yeah, I can just add a bit on that also in focus area 3, it's very much about the renovation and the reuse in general of the existing built environment, but also not only the reuse at sort of a tangible level, but also in the intangible sense. So how can we foster the sharing of resources and assets among communities? Yeah, from this sort of circularity perspective, but also to foster greater inclusion in the reuse of resources in the built environment. And that then also connects to, there was the question connecting to vulnerable groups. So of course, we do pay special attention to vulnerable, underrepresented and minority groups. So here also looking at business models for renovation and reuse that ensure that vulnerable groups are not displaced, and also cooperative renovation, for example. And then that also, of course, touches upon heritage buildings, because that connects very much to the NEB values in the sense of preserving local heritage, but also the aesthetic elements that heritage contains. And yeah, how can we renovate these existing spaces into new community spaces and for new purposes? So yeah, that's a bit sort of the third focus area, complementing the second on what Emily said.
Thanks a lot. We have 2 minutes left for the session. So we also got a question about examples of good projects. I posted some of the links in the chat. We will also share them later on. And here I would also like to invite those that are not a part of our community to consider joining the community, because what the community brings together, in addition to possible partners for different projects, is also regular sharing of either events, projects, results from projects that they do. We offer weekly newsletter to inform the community about this, where all community members can publish, in addition to what we do as a commission that we add. And that's also a question. There was also a question whether we will bring the community members together to facilitate development of different projects. We will try to do our best, what we can do within the community, but I would also like to point out that there are at least 2 support networks that you can lean on as either members of the community or not. So we have 2 networks of national contact points. We have the national so-called NEB RNI national contact points, who have been appointed last year, and their specific task is to support all the applicants and future applicants to the Horizon Europe calls. So all the NEB facility calls that will be published under the Horizon Europe, there is specific configuration of national contact points organized not only in the EU member states but also beyond, that is there to support all the applicants. We will also share the link to where you can find them. And then there's the second configuration of the national contact points that are now called NEB policy national contact points, that are the link between the EU member states and the European level, and are also there to help and support community members as well as those that are interested in the initiative. Furthermore, speaking also about all the programs that will organize, contribute with the calls, they also have their own support structure. So, for example, if there is there will be a call published under a live program. Live program has its own national contact points organized in the EU member states that are also, again, there for the same reason as all the others. So, not to go beyond the designated time, thank you very much to everyone for joining. There's also, I see a need that we continuously communicate about different support options, as well as be available to address any of the questions. For that, we are always available. You can contact us via our contact form on the website, or if you're a part of the community, you have our contact information to reach out directly. We thank you for great interest, for great questions, and hope that many of you will engage with different opportunities under the NEB facility. And then the last, but of course not least, of the thanks goes to my colleagues who not only presented the roadmap, indicated what is coming, but also engaged with more or less complicated questions that you got. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it a lot, and we appreciate it a lot on behalf of all the participants. And I'm left with saying, don't have too long of a work Friday. Enjoy the weekend, and see you around NEB facility and all of these activities in the next weeks and months. And we're looking forward to meeting you again in different opportunities. Take care of yourselves and see you around.